What is going on, beautiful people? This is Headhunters Live, number 58, with Ashley Woods from Time Rich Recruiter. My name, or I am your boy, David Stephen Patterson, also known as DSP. And we have to my, I guess, right on the screen, left on my side, because everything's reversed, we have the best looking man in the biz, Neil Lebovitz.
There you go. Look at you throwing a curveball. I'm just in the middle of the worst sandwich ever of glasses and beards and whatever. So yeah,
the man meat sandwich.
Quite the juxtaposition.
Not a glasses and beard sandwich. We are the bread. People always say like the compliment sandwich, right? Give a compliment, then the criticism, and the compliment. The filling is the name.
By the bad news in the middle of.
Yes, exactly. It's a bad news sandwich. It's not a compliment.
Okay, I can do that.
And we also have Chris, the most recently best looking man in the biz, who's just been supplanted by the one and only Neil Lebovitz, Chris Wessel. Chris, hopefully you can work your way back into contention.
It's tough to compete with this like Sean Connery later years vibe that's going on.
I'm working on the charm, but I don't have the chiseled fucking. I would like if I woke up chiseled like that. I don't know what I would do with myself. Besides.
I know what you would do with yourself.
Chris definitely has the Giga Chad chin for sure.
Giggity.
The Giga Chad chin.
It's got the little pluff thing. Yeah. It's got the dimples, blue eyes, the blonde hair. I mean, I'm straight, but I'm extremely attracted, Christopher.
Oh, go on. Oh, really? Go
on. Well, guys, this show's already going downhill. Today we have a very special guest, Ashley Woods. She just started a firm called, or a company called Time Rich Recruiter. But Ashley is from the trenches. She's done this business for years and built a lot of money. Had a great lifestyle business. Now she wants to teach others how to do it. So we're going to talk to her just a minute. Before we do so, if you're watching this when we're broadcasting this live, please comment live down in the little comment section. If you're watching the replay, hit replay. You know why? Because it helps the algorithm, and we need the algorithm to push our show. So help us help you, or help you help us, whatever. You know what I mean. Do what you got to do. Like, love it, share it. With that said, let's talk about a couple of our favorite sponsors. First off, we have Back Office Staffing Solutions. Now, many of you folks who are in permanent placement, you have up months and down months. You have feast and famine. All right. We all know the story. If you want to get into contracting, staff augmentation, temporary staffing, whatever you want to call it, but you don't want to deal with the nastiness of having to do workers' comp, insurance, payroll is the worst. Funding payroll is probably the worst part. Yeah. I've done it, Chris. I know you've done it. No, thank you. So Neil's company handles all of that, and they do it with a smile and a wink and with one of the lowest rates in the business. So check out backofficenow.com. In fact, let me go ahead and there we go, put them up on the graph right here, backofficenow.com. Also, Neil has
for a couple years, and they're great, super simple, and the people on payroll are like, it's really easy. The onboarding is really smooth. I don't have to do anything. I type a little bit of information, and the team takes it from there. So,
and by the way, if you're not happy with your current provider, if you're already doing temps and they suck, and honestly, most of them kind of do, to be honest with you, check out Neil, give him a shot. You will not be disappointed. He's the only one I recommend. Only one. All right. Now, also, Neil has an ebook, or like actually not an ebook. I'm sorry. So it's a book on Amazon. But you can download it as an ebook if you want. Going to backofficenow.com/AI. It's a guide in AI. And funny enough, my free download is called the AI Proof Recruiter. It's weird how things just kind of converge. So go to digitalheadhunter.com/AI-proof. And for those who don't know, I run a company called the Digital Headhunter. We help build out these systems for independent recruiters and small search firm owners. It's completely done for you. In 30 days, we're going to hand you probably the most lethal system on the market, battle tested. So go to realdsp.me/build. On that link, there is a 12-minute video showing you exactly what we build with success stories and why it works, right? We don't just show you what we do, but why it works, the theory behind it. So go check that out. With that said, I think that's it. Let's bring on Ashley because I want to make sure we get enough time with her. So, guys, you ready?
Indeed.
Awesome. Let's rock and roll. Ashley, let's put you right there in the middle next to Chris. There we go. Hey.
You You got blonde hair and blue eyes in the middle. You got
You two are ridiculous. Like, I feel so ugly next to the two of you. I feel hideous.
Neil, we're distinguished.
And you two are beautiful. Look at you two. With the big, look at you. You swear you look like twins. You're the female version of Chris.
So Ashley. So Ashley,
so is Chris.
Well, first, thank you for Neil. Calm yourself, sir. Ashley, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So for the audience, I've given them a little bit of a taste of who you are, but if you could, for the audience, tell us who you are, what do you do, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, Ashley Woods. I'm the founder of the Time Rich Recruiter, and I actually still run my desk full time. So I do both, still in the trenches, still relevant. But yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Yeah, you're a doer. Yeah, and that's one thing too about trainers. You know, I've obviously I don't recruit anymore, but I had about 20 some year, 25, I don't know, a couple decades doing it. And that's one thing about trainers, right? You have to make sure that whoever you're getting trained by or coached by has actually done the thing that you want them to do, right?
Done it relatively recently, has some idea of how it's currently done, right? Sure. Yeah.
Although I will say, something that a lot of, and actually you may have experienced this. A lot of you hear the term before, like, well, those who can't do teach. And what I found, and I don't know if you've seen this in your coaching career, is actually when you coach it makes you better, because what it does, it kind of forces you to think, it forces you to break it down into steps, and it kind of makes you rethink how you do it. And what I've noticed, at least for me, is that when I coach something, it actually makes me better at the thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Same as when
repetition
you're
is the mother of all
right?
skill.
Yeah. Right. If you're a mentor, you have to do it well, right? If you're working a desk and you're teaching people, you just feel like an idiot if you're not doing all the stuff that you talked about in the training room.
It's funny you say that too, because as someone who runs a solo desk with like a VA assisting and a little bit of AI and stuff, but basically alone, I always have interns every semester, usually like 1 or 2, and I found that like it helps them, and I could do without them. I don't need them, but it like keeps me on my toes because they're watching you, right?
Yeah.
And, like, you have to like do it right. Like it's just you can, you could cut corners, you could do whatever, you could skip steps. But when like someone's like watching what you're doing and writing it down and trying to follow, or you're trying to break down a process for someone, like it just reinforces it. So totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I learned that originally from Russell Brunson. If you guys don't know who Russell Brunson is, Russell Brunson, the creative click funnels. Yeah, Russell Brunson is great. In fact, that's how I'm sure who he is, because you're doing online coaching now too. And Russell was kind of where I first got the idea for coaching. This back in 2017, and he said that he was a wrestler in college, and he said that he went to like a summer camp or some camp where he was there as like a student instructor, or like whatever. And he said that during that time he was trying to have to break down moves. He said that was the one thing that really brought his game to a whole other level when we started coaching it, and then his skill just radically improved. So it's very true, But with that said, let me ask you about your current practice. So what do you recruit now? What's your niche?
Now I'm very niche. So Canadian government, and more specifically, like I boiled my desk down to really one major client, so one enterprise client, and that's it. I'm not trying to scale that business. I'm fully focused on the Time Rich side. So it's about 80% leveraged on that side.
Wow, isn't that scary?
No, it's great.
No? Well, for now it is. But what I mean, God forbid there's problems. What happens?
Cross leverage when we get to it, right?
Well, and speaking besides that, like when you're talking about not needing to scale it, like we were talking before this, and I think it'd be great if you elaborated on like that you work with recruiters who aren't necessarily looking to scale. They're trying to do that lifestyle business. Because that's an interesting angle, because a lot of what I see, especially as a sole desk recruiter who has a great lifestyle business, a lot of the stuff is like, hey, if you're not scaling, if you're not growing, then what the hell are you doing? But you have a different take on it.
Yeah, I feel like, recruiting's, it's got this very old school mindset that hustle equals results, right? But if you look outside the recruiting industry in other markets, people figured it out. They figured out how to have a life and have great results. So I was really inspired by that. I was traveling the world. I didn't want to be working all the time, but I had a lifestyle to maintain, right? So it was looking at ways to do that better, to do that smarter. So really I combined, systems, leverage, and lifestyle to create what is now Time Rich Recruiter. So I'm a big believer. I like going against the grain. I'm like, I don't think you need to work 100 hours a week. I've done it and it burnt me out. I hit a wall and I was like, this isn't sustainable. There's got to be something better than this. So that's really where I was inspired. I like to tell people that I'm lazy. So yeah, I think lifestyle is the way to go. You know, my life has evolved in ways that I never imagined possible. And actually the money just followed.
How do you help them strike the balance? Because I feel like when you have a lifestyle business and you're solo, there's like it's easy to do, but your prospecting could fall off, like your pipeline could fall off or whatever. So how do you help them strike a balance between like certain level of activity you have to do to have it be a sustainable business, but also have it be a lifestyle business, right? Because you're not trying to, does that make sense?
Yeah. And I get this question a lot and I'm like, there is no easy fix, right? There are shortcuts and there are better ways to do things. But at the end of the day, the first year is a grind. Like you can't get away from that grind. But if you put the time in, you build the systems, you build the leverage, you build the partnerships, then all of a sudden you have a business that you're owning and not operating. You don't actually need to be there all the time. So for me, it's like, it's breaking the mindset. It's making that mindset shift to this is how things have always been done to this is how they could be done. And that's the biggest roadblock that I see because recruiters are really funny. I mean, recruiters make more money than most salespeople, but you know, they don't want to invest in themselves. So it's like, it is an uphill climb sometime. And I mean, the journey is different for everybody, but yeah, I find it's first breaking the mindset and then showing them what's possible. It's like, I'm not preaching anything. I actually do it. I know that it works. So.
Well, you know, one thing I've noticed with a lot of recruiters, you know, we go through stages, I guess, or seasons, if you will, right? You know, when you're young, dumb, and out of college, or just starting your career, and you're like super motivated, 8 hours a week, and I'm going to grind. I'm listening to Gary Vee like nonstop on my podcast, and like so you go from that, right? And then you get a little older, a little wiser, and you realize that you can always earn back money. You can't earn back time, right? And so you kind of make the transition over to, okay, now I need to kind of put the lifestyle around what I do. So I'm curious, did you go through that yourself, and like what kind of led to that? Because I think a lot of recruiters do, and I'd be curious to find out what your experience is making that transition mentally.
Yeah, for mine was a big shift around time. Like I always had a funny relationship with time. I had some tragic deaths happen to me pretty young. So I was like, whoa, like time is finite, right? It's the only finite resource that we have. So how do I maximize that? So I actually went through, hey, I want to build the biggest agency. You know, I want to be the number one agency in the world I started doing well. I started making money, but I walked into the office, like the corporate world that I used to work in. There was nobody in that room that I looked up to that I wanted to be like anymore, right? Because I started seeing these like zombie faces, people that didn't really love what they do. They had a lot of vices, and I was like, oh, but that's not what I want. So I did that, and then, you know, I hit a wall. I left recruiting because I was like, this is tiring, and, you know, I'd rather be at the beach and hanging out with my friends and doing other things. So it was a bit of an evolution for me. I kind of like stumbled into it. But I got brought back.
What was your like kind of like path? I know they could look at your LinkedIn, but like how'd you get into recruiting, and like what did that look like?
Yeah, I got recruited to be into recruiting. Tech Systems pulled me in right out of university. And I worked for a satellite office. So it was already like I got thrown into the trenches. I didn't have much leadership, but I was like, wow, this is cool. I worked with a bunch of like athletes and hospitality folks. So I was like, you know, this is like serving for big kids. I got to take people out, wine and dine them, and just, you know, learn about people, what kind of challenges they have. So for me, it was really fascinating, the recruitment industry. I loved it. I love the hustle. I love the grind, until I didn't.
And you went there right out of school, huh? Right straight into it.
Yeah, right out of school. It
That's
was
pretty
like
common, that Tech Systems type of like hire right out of college. That's a pretty standard kind of path, I feel like.
It is. And you have like, and there's companies like that hire out of college. Like I know K-Force here locally here in Tampa.
K-Force.
They're very big about hiring out of college. Actually, they love to hire from sororities. Actually, and I got that from the I think it was like the number 4, number 5 in the company. I met him years ago, and he said that was one of their key success. Hire from sororities.
Sororities?
Everybody, because they want to talk to girls. They get a much higher connection request acceptances. They pick up more. It's just like, and if you find somebody who's intelligent, right, and does really well, isn't afraid of cold calling. He's like consistently. He's like, you some guys who do really well, but consistently for like at the average, the billings are usually higher.
But why not just hire women? Why sororities in general? Because they're hotter? Like, why is that? Like, picks like an old.
I'm just saying what he told me. I'm just. It wasn't my policy. It was,
all right.
it was like, yeah, but it's but yeah. Well, there's companies that hire like college kids, tech systems and K4s and a bunch of those, and it's kind of funny how you see people start there and then they transition to like the smaller boutique firms and they transition to like independent. It's really amazing to see how much of a cottage industry this thing is, right?
Yeah, I don't think.
Where'd you go next?
I don't think tech systems model is like retention, right? Like they're really good at taking people at university. They put a lot, they demand, they're a very demanding schedule. 50 hours is a normal week at a minimum. Yeah. And, nobody who's tenured is going to do that.
But it works. It's just like consulting
works.
firms routinely hire people, and you go and you work for like a Big Four or something like that. You work there 3 to 5 years and then you move right into another job. Enterprise Rent-A-Car hires tons of people right out of school. Model. And it used to be like the copier sales companies, because those aren't even around anymore. But the copier sales companies did the same model, like, and they were basically all people just gunning to try to get into pharmaceutical sales, but they need to get 2 years of B2B under their belt. But all those companies don't care because that's just their model, and then that's what they are. They're good with that.
Which is why they're great companies for us to recruit from, like Enterprise. Like great. For sure.
Well, actually, funny enough, before I got my first staff job, which was a company called Labor Ready, doing day labor. I did that for a little bit. Then I went to Kelly Services instead of the call center. But I was actually interviewing with Enterprise Rent-A-Car at the time, and then I got the offer from Labor Ready to work there, and I took that one instead of Enterprise, and here I am now.
I didn't get the Enterprise job because I didn't have the cleanest license, so that knocked me out.
Right.
Would you leave with that?
All that stuff at Enterprise.
Oh man. So all right. So let's talk about lifestyle business, right? So
yeah,
I'm curious that. So I've I talked to a lot of recruiters, and I've got a lot of recruiters that have cracked the code in the lifestyle business, and they bill $150 a year, and they're working part time, right? And I guess you could say it is lifestyle to a certain degree, right? But obviously, what you're doing is a little bit different because it looks like you're using you're leveraging yourself so you can still make a lot of money, but still be a digital nomad. So what's the difference between say something like that versus what you're doing and what you're teaching? What are some, I guess, the core pillars of being like a high billing lifestyle recruiter?
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to lifestyle recruitment, competition or collaboration is the new competition, right? Yeah. When I go look at, no matter what the recruiting topic is, it could be getting a new client, it could be finding candidates. The first thing I think about is who can do this better than me? I like to think of myself as, I'm resourceful. I'm a recruiter. So one of the things that's worked really well with me is I look at my recruitment desk as, a business owner or a startup owner would look at their startup. It's about looking at the different functions in the business and maximizing the output in there, right? So I do a lot of leverage. I do a lot of partnerships. And as a result, it allows me to output, significantly. And there's enough margin in the recruitment business that you could still do very well just being resourceful and using people that are better at things than you are. So I've done it all. I've had 5 sourcers that were just full-time recruiting for me all the time. Very time consuming, was not time rich during that time. And now I just work with, very skilled recruiters who I just collaborate with. We split 50-50. So I've built my entire desk on, collaborating. So
so you don't have staff that you delegate to. You're creating partnerships with other recruiters in essence, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you, do you have any like an EA admin, anything like that, or do you do your own admin? I
do have an EA. Yeah.
Okay.
EA, and then now we're in the era of agents and custom GPTs, right? So I help write the system prompts, and then I have the EA run them, and then we just constantly improve them. So it's a combination of things.
An EA with AI skills is like worth 3. You know what I mean? Like
I know it's the same thing because I was using VAs for the longest time, and then I've been using a VA for 7 or 8 years successfully. But then even the way I use one had to change, and then now as soon as I had him start using tools that he was doing, taking a day to do something, but he could do it in 5 minutes, and now I could have him do other stuff, and it's like now you're like, how else can I utilize this? Let me ask you with the splits and stuff. How did you cultivate that? Are you in like NPA or top echelon or anything like that, or did you find like your own partnerships? Like how did you build that?
Yeah, I actually built under the TIMA group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which like there's a lot of companies like that now, right?
You
I
were
love
a member
TIMA.
of TIMA for a while?
I still am.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still at TIMA.
We've been in touch with them about becoming their back office in the day and helping them on the temp side of the business, which they do. So
yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
We can chat offline.
Well, how's the value prop for you on something like that? Like there's lots of turnover there, and lots of my current partners have left there and gone on their own. As opposed to, again, yeah.
The difference between TIMA and like a traditional organization, right, is that TIMA is really unstructured. So you need the same skill set to operate and win within TIMA than you would starting your own business, because nobody's going to be chasing you for results. Nobody's going to control what you do. So you really need to be good at building internal brands, external brands, and navigating the ebbs and flows of that. So we have high retention for year one, low retention for year one. And then anybody that makes it past year one figures it out, right? So
it's like recruiting. Recruiting has high churn first year. If you make it your first year, you can make it a career. That's very true.
Yeah, but I mean the ROI for me is huge because I don't want to do admin. I don't want to do back office. You build the company off that. It's not my strength, and I know and I appreciate that. So I think that that's one thing when it comes to leveraging, right? It's like know your strengths, do what you love, do what fuels you, do what gives you energy, outsource the rest.
Yeah, there's and it's tough for a lot of people. I know it can be tough for me as well to delegate. That's always been one of my weaknesses. I'm strong in other areas. I'm a bit of like a gunslinger. I'm a good sales guy, but and I've got good big ideas. But sometimes like the delegation is tough, and that's one thing I have to work on. So obviously delegation I think is going to be or collaboration as well is going to be a big part of what you teach. So what would you say to, let's say, the folks watching this, the old salty dogs that really have a hard time delegating because they want to do things perfectly, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. What's your advice to those folks? Like, how can they get better at delegating and pushing things off?
I think getting clearer on their vision, their goals, like the strategy, like what outcome are you trying to achieve, right? Yeah. Because when you get really clear on that outcome and what you're trying to achieve, what you need to do to get there, all of a sudden becomes really clear. So I like to push people because I'm like, the only difference standing between my desk and your desk is that you do everything yourself and I don't. I collaborate, and as a result, I yield these good results. Now, guardrails are necessary. You need to vet your partners just like you would anybody. But look, there's hundreds of thousands of recruiters in North America. You're not the only person that knows how to recruit. There are other people that are good at it. So unless you kind of trial and error and go that route, it's like, how do you ever know? But every recruiter that I know that's billing in the 7-8 figures are outsourcing. They're delegating. Yeah. Every company I know that has built, a successful company delegates and outsources. So it is a necessary step of growth. And I think the recruiters that, that want to get there will accept that, will try that. And, I think it's the future.
So with that said, yeah, I think you're right. It's just tough. I think a lot of folks are kind of set in their ways. And again, a lot of recruiters they're very, they're very good at what they do. When you're very good at what you do, it's hard to see somebody else do it. And what some of the advice I always got was that be comfortable with 80 to 90%, right? Like obviously somebody may not do it 100% like you can. You got to be okay with 80, 90%, because if you can get multiple people doing that, then that's really true leverage. And that's where I think a lot of folks have that sort of blockage, right? They can't get past that, right?
And recruiters who went solo did it because they wanted their way works, their way's better. They don't want to listen to anyone else. So like inherently there's a I got this kind of mentality, which serves you to a point.
Sometimes serves you or hurts you. One
or
the other.
I will say the older that I get, the more I realize that, there's, and I've had some mentors teach me this as well, but I've really internalized it where as you grow in a business, you've got some parts of the business, you have you have the operator, you have the entrepreneur, you have the marketer, sales guy, you have, you know, the finance person, whatever, and they're all like really different skill sets, and you'll never have all four, and you may be able to get competent in all areas, but you're never going to really excel in all. You excel, like for me, for example, I'm the entrepreneur, a gunslinger, sales guy, kind of big idea market. I'm really good marketing, but for me, I'm not the best operator, right? Because I tend to think like big picture, which is why I've had to learn to delegate and have a director of operations now, which really, really helps. And so I think what I always tell people is like, look, start off with an EA. It's like, yeah, start with an EA. Because getting rid of that low level, not this low level, like low value task, but the admin tasks that could be done by somebody else with that skill set. So you can focus on, well, closing deals, making money.
And it's like, it's measuring it, right? Because like, if you just do it and you're not measuring it, but like if time is your motive, how much time does that give you back? And when you could start focusing on how much time is being bought back and the outcome and the results that gives you, time to spend with your family, time to travel, do whatever it is that you want to do, all of a sudden it becomes pretty fun, because you're like, I could be at the beach while I'm making money. And it just kind of snowballs. And then you're like I'm at the point now where I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Who can I find that's better than me? And to your point, if it's like, you know, nobody could do it the way that I can do, well, that's a lie, because, you know, there's a lot of really skilled recruiters. So find another solo recruiter who has the same values, who has the same drive, and maybe does the other side. So like recruiting is like, I don't know why anybody would want to run a 360 desk. I've done it. It's awful. You know, but do you like the client side? Do you like the recruiter side? Find somebody who likes the other side and who has equal values, and partner with them.
I've done a fair amount of splits, and it's definitely a piece of the puzzle where like it's sometimes tricky, a little bit of you got to kiss some frogs to figure out who you can really partner with. Right? Like I think that's like figuring out who they're not going to exactly operate like you, but you're operating on similar frequency and you can build some trust, you know, then it's nice. Cause yeah, you could take a couple of days off and you've got, you know, your VA or EA or whatever we're calling them these days is doing some sourcing for you. And then you've got one of your recruiting partners is calling some people on one of the recs you brought in. And then you're like, oh, I don't need to do anything right now. And also my business didn't come to a screeching halt just because I'm golfing today. And
no.
I remember for me, you know, I've done, you know, I ran my own firm for many, many years. So I started off, I did Kelly, did MRIs where I learned search, and then did that a few years and started my own firm doing SAP. So I remember there's a few firsts that I remember so clearly in my mind, which was one was my very first deal I ever closed. Well, I found a candidate. It's like my third week in doing search and MRI. I felt a split. I thought I was God's gift to the recruiting world, and then I didn't close another deal for 6 months. But then I was a top biller after that. But anyways, but I remember that first, and then I remember my first deal that I closed as an independent. I still remember the guy's name, Zoltan Mayer, was my candidate, $27,000, $300 fee, and for Valera Energy. I still remember to this day. But I also remember the very first deal that was closed in my company with a guy that I hired. I never talked to the client. I never talked to the candidate. He was able to do the deal on his own. And I remember that so well. I'm like, wow, I don't have to do this. You know what I mean? And it's really an amazing experience. I'm sure you've probably felt that before, but it is neat when you see like the people that you're hiring actually doing the work, actually making things happen, and you're getting like your piece of it because you set that up. You know what I mean?
Ashley, do you go both ways with it? Meaning, are you just people just sourcing for your government client, or are you also helping source and making placements on their clients?
I used to do it all. Like I used to work on both sides. Now I'm just purely on the client side for the government. But
which is even more time rich, because right when you're on the BD side, it's not as labor intensive as on the recruiting side.
100%.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's talk about what you can outsource, because for a lot of folks watching this, they're an independent recruiter out there and they want to be time rich. So what are the steps they need to take? And I guess in terms of like, what do you outsource, right? Like what would your advice be to somebody thinking about going down that path?
Yeah. I mean, I wrote Time Rich Recruiter, and then I heard Dan Martel's, I read his book, Buy Back Your Time. And I think that he puts it so beautifully. He's like, you know, you got to do your time audit. But what I love about his time audit is he looks at like, hey, what spends my time? And then he adds an additional layer where he talks about the energy drain. What does your energy look like when you do certain activities, right? And he says, color code them: green for things that light me up and red for things that don't. So while you're working through your days and you're writing down where you're spending your time and you're noting the energy, you have green and red. Well, the first thing you want to outsource is all that red stuff. So whether it's admin, whether it's payroll, whatever it is that, you know, you don't like doing. I actually really loved sourcing. So I used to source and then, you know, get my recruiters to call the candidates because that's what I like to do. I thought it was fun. I'm a little detective and this is what lights me up. And, you know,
I just don't want to call all of them.
I don't want to call all of them. It's time consuming. So like that's where I would start is like, you know, anybody who's been in the industry long enough knows what they like, knows what they don't like. Mm-hmm. Start by outsourcing the stuff that you don't like, the stuff that drains your energy. And then you really want to focus on high leverage activities, right? Like what moves the needle, usually leads, BD and things that get the ball moving. So that would be my starting point for advice.
You know, one thing that I've always admired, speaking of that, is, and I've got some clients who have this sort of setup. It's not super common, but I've seen it where I've seen it enough. I'm like, okay, it's not just like a singular thing, where you have a husband and wife combo.
Yeah.
Like either the wife does BD, husband recruits, or vice versa, or I've got another client who does. The wife is the face of the business. She does the recruiting and all the marketing, but the husband handles all the admin and the back end of the tech stuff because they do a lot of tech work. They have like a pretty robust infrastructure, and I find that if you're able to have a partner that can be in the business and be complementary to you. Now, the one piece of advice I always give if you're in that situation, make sure you don't work in the same room. That's the advice I got from almost every single person I've talked to who does this. Is like the best advice: do not have the same office. One side of the house is the wife, one side of the house is the husband. Meet for coffee at lunch, whatever. But that's the best you can do to make sure you're not, you know, not doing that.
I mean,
probably hard for you both to go on vacation though if you're doing that. Like, right? That's probably tricky, but
there are ways. But it's great because they probably share the same vision, right? Like they have a very powerful vision that they're both drawn towards, and they work on that together. I think it's cool.
Oh, it's very cool. It's very cool.
Wouldn't do it, but I think it's cool.
So, all right. So with that said, then let's talk about some other systems, because it sounds like you're very systems oriented as well, right? Having, did you ever go through Dan Martell's like program?
No.
Okay.
I would love to.
Well, I was curious because I went through something similar. I went through, I'm aware of Dan Martell. I like his stuff. I never been through this program, but I went through a summer one called 2x.co, and I always recommend them for systems. Great company for systems. And they did the same thing. Yeah. They did a time audit. You've heard of 2x? Yeah, they're great. So I went through a time audit and they helped me develop some systems. And so one thing that really helped me a lot was just systems, right? And I'm still working on it because it's not my strength. But for you, what would be it for someone who is wanting to delegate? I'm sure you have to figure out some systems. How do you go about doing that? How do you kind of create? How do you figure out what systems you need to create, and how do you go about doing that? Because I think that's probably a pretty necessary step, I would imagine.
Like what systems I need to create for the recruitment business itself?
Anything, yeah, whether it be sourcing, recruiting, BD. But I know for me, developing systems helped a lot. Helped to delegate, because then I could say, okay. Yeah. You do this, but how do you figure out what systems to create, right? Or where do you start? And that's a big question, I know, but
it's so agile. Yeah. It's so agile, right? Like I can tell you that, my first MA or my first EA that I hired, I hired to do admin stuff, and I had her recruiting in day 10 because I realized that that's what would get me results, and I just automatically converted her. So I think it's an agile approach, right? You need to build systems that serve your desk. I think recruitment is one of those industries where, it's kind of like art. We're creative. Everybody approaches business differently. So BD, there should always be some type of system built around BD for sure. Recruitment, the recruiting side, the sourcing side, recruiting side. When it comes, now we're in the most beautiful era ever with automation because, it supercharges anybody's capability. So things that used to take me 5 days long, now I do in 10 minutes. So I have all this extra time to look at systems, to look at leverage, to look at opportunities to grow and bring new things to the industry. So, I think it's you got to build systems around your BD. My system's going to look different from your system. That's going to look different from Neil's system. We all have different systems, right? It depends how you run your specific desk. But you definitely want to automate repetitive tasks.
So we talk about this on the system note. What's your tech stack? What would you suggest? What have you finally learned, and what are you doing?
Neil, I was about to ask that question, sir.
All right, we're on the same page.
Yeah, same page. All right.
Yeah, my tech stack is very basic. I actually did all I did for 2 years with Tima is we would look and evaluate tools, right? And we would try them, we would demo them. And what I noticed is that a lot of the tools were just really noisy and they created a lot of extra work for me. So I actually dropped all the tools that I was using. When I was on the recruiting side, RPS, obviously, I think every recruiter should invest in LinkedIn Recruiter. It's just a non-negotiable thing, right?
You think that over Navigator, that you've tried both and the Recruiter is the way to go?
For recruiting itself, yes. For BD, no. I think that there are different products for a reason. But yeah, on the recruitment side, it's I only ever used LinkedIn Recruiter. I played with things like Seek Out, which I actually really liked. I would recruit off GitHub. And Loxo was one that I liked. But I dropped down to literally no tools. RPS, ChatGPT, some of the other AIs, depending on what I'm trying to do. But I just built custom GPTs for everything when it pertains to my workflow. So if I give you an example of the government world, really paperwork heavy, really admin heavy. So when we get a role, it's I'll first look at, on the client side, here's a good example of automation. So on the client side, I have created candidate personas for every single team and the type of person that they'd like to hire at that team. So I trained the AI, I pulled everybody's profiles and I put them into the AI and I said, hey, start looking at patterns and hiring trends that this particular manager likes to hire. So now when I go to shortlist my candidates, I put it against, these personas so that
That's a great idea.
So I'm trying to remove my own bias, right? Why do I need my bias when I have their bias access to me? So I literally went into my client side, I pulled all the client profiles and I started creating personas for, the different hiring profiles. And now I stack rank against those so that I remove my bias. And guess my interview rates have significantly increased because I'm appeasing to what the customer wants. So that's one example of a system that I would build just to be a little bit ahead of the game, right? It's I take the guesswork out because data is data, it doesn't lie. So that's an example of a system I wrote. We do a lot of proposal writing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, after you.
Yeah, I was just going to say we do a lot of proposal writing. So, I put anywhere between 200 and 500 proposals together a year.
With all that government work, yeah. I mean, this is very proposal intensive and nobody likes it. A lot of
great data though. So it's every time I win, I put it in. Every time I lose, I put it in. And I just start building, this repository of good information that helps me win. So those are examples of some of the systems that I've built. On the recruiting side is the same thing, right? But for skill sets.
Now you said Loxo as an example you no longer use. What do you use as an ATS? A homegrown or a combination of LinkedIn and AI? What do you do?
Well, because I'm with Tima, we use Bullhorn.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the recruiting side of my desk, I'm still with Tima, still use Bullhorn. Not much to say about Bullhorn.
So I want to go back to, if you don't mind, I want to go back to the lifestyle thing. I want to talk about that a little bit because I think there's some areas we can still explore. And one thing I was thinking about, everybody talks about the good things about being a lifestyle recruiter, right? For example, I use this story all the time, but there was one time when I was scuba diving in Key Largo, and I closed, gosh, it was a $30,000-$35,000 deal, quite literally. While I was scuba diving, client called me with an urgent search. I knew the guy, he'd be the best fit. I called him, got the resume in, they interviewed him right away. They hired him that same week. I billed it and was granted, obviously that's the exception, not the rule, but that was a cool, a lifestyle sort of thing, right? And then I went back to scuba diving. It was amazing. But I also know that there's certain advantages to being in a bullpen or office or have other people, right? There's a bit of a loneliness factor. I don't think maybe so much now because the internet and Facebook groups on that, but when I was doing it, man, it was lonely. How can you hedge against that, that dark side of lifestyle recruiting? There's probably a bit of loneliness there, I would imagine, right? What's been your experience?
I I've not had it. I've not had the loneliness, but I understand what you're speaking of because, you know, I have a lot of friends that fall into that space. But the biggest thing with lifestyle, right, is like my life didn't stop when I was on the road. I did the same things in different countries with different people. One of the things that I would recommend, though, for recruiters to avoid that lonely factor is like you need community, right? I stayed in very social places. So I was actually at the point where I was like, I need to be alone because I had went, you know, maybe 6 years without ever spending a day by myself. But I put myself into environments where community was fostered. So co-works are like a great, like now there's so many good co-living and co-working spots that exist around the world. And they're in like nice beach hot spots. And they're like-minded people who are doing like-minded things. So that would be my biggest advice is like put yourself in these environments. Yes, they cost more. I'm not going to lie. They're like $3,000 US for, you know, a bedroom. And you live with 10 other people. But these 10 other people are your community. They're your friends. They're people that want to do things. They're people that are building businesses. So that's like my biggest piece of advice to, you know, remove the lonely factor is like stop putting yourself in a room by yourself and, you know, put yourself out there.
So I would add to that, like, even if you're not in some exotic locale where, yes, those would be a little more expensive, just day to day, like one of the things I found the last like 5 years or so of being solo, I work out of a home office often. I'm in the kitchen area right now because our wife is using the home office because she usually works from home on Fridays. So I get banished, but that's okay. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go, I have a membership at a very nice co-working place. And I go there, I find 2-3 times a week I go there. And a lot of times it's nice because there's other entrepreneurs there. There's things are buzzing, stuff's happening. People are talking, people are walking around talking on their phones. There's activity. It's motivating, right? Like if you were just sitting at your desk in your house day after day after day, it can get to you. But like, I was funny because there's all these offices you can use and they're all like the glass offices or whatever. And I feel like I have to do more because I feel like people are watching. You're like,
100%.
walking by on
the
phone or something. I should be doing stuff because there's people around. I don't like, you know.
I got to do that. I live in the most amazing building in Fort Lauderdale. It's got this incredible 3-story shared office. I mean, just like
perfect.
that. And I don't go there. I work in my sweatpants in my kitchen where I am now. It's crazy. I got to do that, Chris.
It depends on what, you know, what does it for you. But no, to your point about the cost too, like, I mean, I pay like a couple $100 a month, maybe. Its plans vary for these places. And
but
so
what do you get out of it, right?
Yeah. Like you can, the plans for most of these places I found, because I've used some when I visited other cities, is they definitely depend on like how much you're using them. And you can get day passes at just about any of these. And there's some actual like kind of clusters of these where they belong to like a group of like, they're not part of a bigger franchise, but they're part of like a community of co-working spaces like all over, and like all these platforms you can find like other places, and because you're a member of one, they'll give you like a deal on when you're in like Manhattan or wherever. So I mean, just to expand on your point, like it can be really helpful, and it doesn't have to break the bank either,
especially if they have events, right? Like
they always have events too. They always have get-togethers and stuff like that. Yeah, totally. It's like you have coworkers,
you know. And if anything about you know, go back to what Neil was saying about how in his retirement community, in his old folks' home, he has other.
Louise. Here by far, it's all 20 and 30-something-year-olds, and I'm.
Is that La Boca Vista co-work?
No, it's a young, fun, hip place. You can Google it. It was called Society Las Olas or Flow Las Olas, Fort Lauderdale. It's really awesome.
Speaking of being hip.
Google says 65 plus community. No,
stop it.
So the best thing about getting old, by the way, Ashley, I know you're still pretty young, but I know for me, and I know Neil, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When the best thing about getting old, I'm 50 now, is that I've got a 27-year-old son, I've got a 18-year-old daughter, then my little one who's 7. My 18-year-old last night, I'm cooking dinner, and I tell her that I just learned what Gucci meant. You Gucci? Is this Gucci? So I'm like, now I know I'm super hip, and I do these things to embarrass her, like, 'cause I know it's not. And that's one of the best parts about getting old, is embarrassing your kids with like, you know, with like slang, like to yeet something or whatever. Like
you use it and it pisses them off. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no cap.
No cap.
It's amazing. All right, so
you got the Riz going, brother. You got the Riz.
I got the Riz. Ooh, good one. I got the Riz.
Yeah,
that was Gucci. So,
No cap.
all right. So let me ask you, Ashley. So, all right. With that said, so, or we'll start wrapping things up here, but I want to ask you about Time Rich Recruiter, that specifically. So what is it exactly? What is it exactly? Like what do you? I mean, we can't have an idea what you teach, but can you give us the what is it? What do you teach, and why are you doing this?
Yeah. So Time Rich Recruiter is, I like to think of it as like a movement. It's new. So we're building out what that looks like and what that entails. But it's a combination of like, first of all, I give the blueprint that I use to build my desk. And that blueprint consists of a lot of micro changes that fall within the recruitment cycle that yield massive results, right? They compound. So that's like the main offer is the blueprint, but the most important part is like the community, right? It's the workshops, it's the implementation. It's, I give you 25 frameworks, but how do you implement those? It's access to me. So I'll answer questions all day, every day. So it's a group coaching. We also have like private coaching, and that's like if you want results fast, right? So if you have a specific problem, you're trying to get that, we will look at that and give you the strategy to get rid of that really quick. But yeah, I think, it's evolving. But the reason that I started Time Rich Recruiter is that, I was sitting on a beach in Costa Rica and I looked around and I was like, wow, what a great life, right? I had all this gratitude. I was at a point with my wealth advisor where like, we're on track. I don't have to work past 40. And my desk will supplement that until I hit 40. So I'm like, what do I do now? Right. I went to a Tony Robbins event. He really inspired me for the contribution piece to give back. So Time Rich Recruiter is really my way to give back to recruiters, to show them what's possible when you put your lifestyle first and then build your business around it. And, it's done a lot of really good things for me. It's absolutely transformed my life. And I want to give that to other people. I want to share it to other people, but I don't want to build it alone. I've not built anything alone, and I don't want to start now. I want to build it as a cohesive. So we actually have, founders rates that are happening between now and November 1st, and they're invitations for people to build that community with me. But yeah,
right. If you guys want to learn more, go to timerichrecruiter.com. It's right there in the name.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So let's start wrapping this up. I do want to ask you one final thing before we wrap. Which one of us is your favorite? I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm just kidding. But now, seriousness, what would be what's your advice? So obviously we have a bit of a tumultuous year into next year, a lot of uncertainty, but also a lot of opportunity. So given all of that, what would your advice be to people watching this now thinking, okay, I want to be a lifestyle recruiter, but we're also kind of topsy-turvy. How do I get business? How do I make this happen? What's your best advice to give somebody watching this right now?
Stay ahead. Stay ahead of what's happening, because I think that the rate at which technology is disrupting our industry is significant. If you don't start thinking about it now, if you don't start leveraging right now, I think it's going to be a very complicated couple of years to come. Yeah. So be curious, be open, and, never stop learning.
And don't play catch up. Yeah, playing catch up is the worst.
Don't play catch up.
Right? Yeah.
Stay ahead of it.
100%.
Yeah, listen to podcasts, come onto events, attend them, be curious. But I think that, the biggest mistake a recruiter can make right now is think that things are not changing and that they can keep doing the way the things that they've been doing. Not going to happen.
100%. And also not paying attention to what I've heard Gary Vee say it like this. I think he said there's don't listen to the focus group of one, meaning I had somebody post in my Facebook group something about like, he's not getting results from cold email or something like that. And he had the template that he was using, and I made a comment. I gave him some advice on how to structure it. But this one guy commented, I forget the guy's name. He said, well, when I get marketing emails, I just delete them. So I don't send them. You know what I mean? Something like that. I was like, well, yeah, because you don't like it doesn't mean other people don't like it, and it will respond to it. You know what I mean? And so I think folks that get in that mentality end up playing catch up later on because they don't implement the things until it's kind of too late. And you realize, oh shit, this thing's working. I need to catch up to it. And so just to further bolster your point, don't play catch up. Be aggressive with again. What's what I'm looking for? Had a brain fart there. Yeah, adjusting to the market, right? Trying new things, I think is probably the best way to put it. But All right. Well, that said, it's time for us to wrap up the show because we are about to turn into pumpkins, or in the case of Neil, a stinky old onion. So I'm just kidding, sir.
It's the worst way to end the week towards the end. It's really like it's
I know. I apologize.
for me.
The reason why I like to do that, because I know you could take it, and you're actually probably one of my favorite people, and the people that I know can take a good joke because you can give it right back. So take that as a compliment there. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, guys. Well, thank you everybody for watching this. Ashley, it's fantastic having you on. Thank you very much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've got some great nuggets out of here. And for the folks watching this, make sure you go to timerichrecruiter.com. This just launched, I think, September, I believe. It's
September.
Brand new. Okay, so get in early. Really, really cool. So support Ashley on her journey. And with that said, we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.